back to my channel. Hope everybody is doing well. It is almost time for one of the most wonderful times of the year, Jane Austen July. Tonight I want to share with you guys my July TBR, including what I have planned to read for Jane Austen July. If you're not familiar, Jane Austen July is a yearly event that is hosted by Katie and a couple of other co-hosts. It takes place every July and we just read and appreciate the works of Jane Austen and things that were inspired by her works. I don't think it's a surprise that I'm a big fan, and so I'm really looking forward to reading or attempting to read quite a bit of fun things related to Jane this month. There are 7 challenges associated with this reading event, and I usually try to do them all. So here are the things that I have picked out for the 7 reading challenges. We'll just start right off with all the Jane Austen July fun stuff, and then I'll go into everything else that's not Jane related. So the first challenge is read one of Jane Austen's main 6 novels. The group read for this year is Mansfield Park, and I have decided to go ahead and read that. I have not read this for a really long time. I don't even know how long, super long. So I am going to go ahead and read this. And it's really funny, actually. I can remember when I first started reading Jane Austen and I had all 6 of the novels in this same like Barnes & Noble edition. And I picked up Mansfield Park and I just remember thinking how very thick it was, how much bigger it was than everything else. And I've just always had that in my head that it's like this massively long, thick novel, like, you know, Wives and Daughters or something along those lines. It just seems so thick. And so when I went to get it off the shelf the other day to prepare for this video, I was like, this is not all that big. It's just a little over 400 pages, and that is including the introduction at the beginning of this. So it's really not, I mean, 400 pages is a lot, but it's not like, you know, anyway, not that big of a book. But I am looking forward to a reread of Mansfield Park. For a lot of people, it's not their favorite one. For me, I don't really know. I don't remember enough about it to, I don't remember enough detail or like style about it to really make that decision right now. So like I know the story obviously, but I don't know like to compare, like if I were to compare, you know, the writing of Pride and Prejudice to the writing in Persuasion, like Persuasion is a much more maturely written novel than Pride and Prejudice or, you know, Northanger Abbey is. So I don't remember that kind of stuff. So looking forward to all of the deep analyzing that I will do reading that story. All right, challenge number 2 is to read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her main 6 novels. I've really been looking forward to this. Last year for Jane Austen July, one of the things that I do in Jane Austen July or close to it is I kind of splurge on some like rare, out of print, older sort of books related to Jane Austen. So I kind of scour the internet and try to find some special things to put in my collection. One of the things that I found last year that is one of the most special books in my collection is actually a Jane Austen first edition. It is a true first edition, but it was published in 1951. So her little volumes here, volume the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd were first published from her manuscript form in the 1950s. But weirdly, they were published out of order. Like this one that I have is volume the 3rd, and it was published in 1951, but volume the 1st was published in 1954. So why they did it that way, I don't know. But this is the first edition that was ever printed in a bound printed form of volume the 3rd, which is her juvenilia. So she actually put these together herself as far as how she organized them. And I had read, and I'm gonna have to read this to see the details, but my husband actually was watching some stuff. He is a bookbinder, and he had been watching some, you know, history and stuff on bookbinding. And one of the videos that he watched talked about Jane Austen and how she actually bound her own books. So she put together her volumes of what we call the juvenilia and bound them herself, and just the family had them, and then decided to actually publish them in the 1950s. So this is a copy from 1951. It's the very first publication of this. It says it right here at the beginning. Now first printed from the manuscript by Oxford at the Clarendon Press. Volume the 3rd by Jane Austen. So this is really special to me. When I received it, all of the pages were cut except one, which was so cool, right? Because then I got to like cut the last page open. And so that was just like a cool experience, right? And I don't know why one was left uncut, but it was for me, I guess. So I thought that was really neat. Another thing that's neat about this copy is it has a couple of people that it belonged to in the past. KL or KE Stone on this side, and then Chris Viviash on this side. And Chris Viviash was a guy who wrote a lot for the different Jane Austen Society publications in England, and he was just like a member of the Jane Austen Society there, and just, you know, if you're there and a part of all that, you are probably familiar with that name, and this came from his library, and so that made it even more special, and I was really happy to have this, and so I'm going to read through this. So it's 2 stories. One of them is Evelyn or Evelyn, and then Kitty or the Bower. And I've read Kitty or the Bower, but I have not read the first one, Evelyn or Evelyn. And it's funny because in this book here, the heading is Catherine, but the contents is Kitty or the Bower. So it just kind of shows how she hadn't fully decided on the name when she put it in here. And then there's also a little bit in the back that is like a continuation of the story Evelyn that Anna Lefroy put in here. She kind of added to the story, I guess. It says a contribution to Evelyn. So see what that is all about. But it does actually have like a little preface, and then it has Jane Austen, May 6th, 1792. So that's probably what she wrote in the beginning of her book, right? In her table of contents. And it sounds like they just copied it from the manuscript in the way that she wrote it out. But here I have like my letters and receipts and things that, you know, it's kind of like a, yes, this truly is a first edition. And anyway, it's just a special addition to my collection, but I have been saving it all year. I bought it last July. I've been saving it all year to read this year. All right, challenge number 3 is to read a nonfiction work about Jane Austen or her time. And I actually have two here. The first one is this that I purchased online. This is Jane Austen Fashion Needlework and the Works of Jane Austen. Now this is by Penelope Byrd. And this can be purchased in Bath and probably other places now, an updated edition. But this is the early edition from 1999, and it's in really nice shape, and it's just like a really nice heavy book with lots of good color illustrations in it, and so I'm just kind of happy to own like the first one. I like having first editions of things. It's just kind of special, right? The dust jacket's in nice shape and everything, so I'm looking forward to looking through that. I used to participate in the costume promenade in Bath that they would have during the Jane Austen Festival in September, and so I've always really been into the fashion of the time and just learning, you know, the differences as things changed just over the few years during the couple of decades. And anyway, it's gonna be fun to look through. All right, and then the other nonfiction I have is this. This is an early edition of this little memoir by Caroline Austen, my Aunt Jane Austen, and it was published in 1952, I think. Yeah, it was published in 1952, and my little book is from 1957. So I'm wondering if this is like a piece of writing that was just held by the family and they decided to put it into publication, or if this is like a great niece. Yeah, she still would have had to have been really stinking old. Yeah, I don't think that could happen. So it's probably a piece of, you know, writing that the family just kept and decided to finally publish. But I thought this was really interesting, the way this little book is designed here, because I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's like the paper was attached all the way around to have the book as a little like encased thing. Like, see how that folds together there? And then you have to cut it open. Like, is that a thing? Because I have never seen something like that before. Like, is that just a British thing? Is that just an old-timey thing? Like, what is the deal with that? but it obviously was together at some point. And little pieces of it are trying to flake off, but it's very short. It's probably just like maybe 30, it's 22 pages long. So it'll just be a quick little read of this memoir. But one of the things I thought was so interesting was when I opened it up to the back here, there is an invitation. And it says, Jane Austen Memorial Trust invites you to visit Jane Austen's home at Chawton near Alton in Hampshire. Open every day throughout the year. It has the times. Admission, I don't know how to read British money. Anyway, you guys can read that and see. I don't know. And then it says, please pass this on to a friend. So it's like a little advertisement for when they opened up the Jane Austen's house in Chawton, which I have gone to several times, right? I showed you guys last year in that video. And that's a sweet little invitation from way back in the day. So I thought that was so cool. So maybe they bought this there. I don't know. But anyway, look forward to reading that and picking pieces of cover off of myself. All right, and then number 4 challenge is read a retelling of a Jane Austen book or a work of historical fiction set in Jane Austen's time. I have 2 for that one also. The first one I just got in the mail. This is The Fatal Unpleasantness at Netherfield by Claudia Gray. This is number 5 in her Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney series. I have a mystery series. If you haven't read those, I encourage you to check them out, but definitely read them in order. Like, go back and get the first one because they build on each other. But this one is quite a bit shorter, it feels like. Oh, I guess not. It says 303 pages, so it feels different. Like, if you guys get this, you'll see what I mean. It feels kind of odd. But anyway, but it looks fun. I'm excited to read it. So that's one. And then the other one, I don't know how I feel about this. I bought it because I had never seen it anywhere before, and it just randomly showed up. I think I bought this on eBay last year, but I had never seen it anywhere before since. No one's talked about it, whatever. This is called I Was Jane Austen's Best Friend. So this is like a YA historical novel. And part of it's epistolary, part of it's just this girl's journals. And she's the old best friend of Jane Austen. Her name's Jenny. Anyway, this says a Junior Library Guild selection. So it might be fun. It might be cringy. It might be okay. I'm fairly pleased with the costume selection for the cover, though. If you watched that video, we've got cringy Walmart girl, and then we have somewhat good attempts, right, at trying to make a Regency costume. So anyway, not being judgy here, I'm just saying. But that'll be fun, maybe, hopefully. Challenge number 5 is to read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen. So this isn't necessarily a book, but it is a play. And I'm doing this partly because I have several big books on my pile this month. So I wanted something shorter, and partly because I just don't read very many plays. So I figured I needed to read one. So this is Percy by Hannah More. Hannah More she wrote a little bit before Jane Austen. Like when Jane Austen was a little girl, probably. I'm not sure what year she wrote this. Let's see if it says. So Hannah More was about 30 years older than Jane Austen. It looks like she wrote this play. It came out in 1777, so Jane Austen would have been, a little toddler, but it's something she would have grown up knowing about, right? And so the works of Hannah More. And so I'm going to read this. It's about 60-ish pages long, and it's probably a longer play than that, but look at this font. I mean, come on, you have the whole page. Like, why would you put it in like 2-point font or whatever that is? I almost sent it back because I just don't know if I could read that. And then I was like, I don't want to be petty like that, but I might like retype and republish this myself because that's horrible. So just letting you know, if you're interested in reading this and you see this copy on Amazon, just be aware that's how tiny the print is. You might want to look for something else. But I'm going to read through that. It looks like Hannah More wrote this play maybe before she started with her religious writing. So she's kind of known to have been the Agnes Grey of the 18th century. Just kidding. Even worse than Agnes Grey. I've seen her described as just kind of preachy and, I don't know, overly pious, like annoyingly pious, but also maybe that's coming from the perspective of someone who's not a believer, right? So I don't really know, but so I can't really judge. I've not read anything else by her, but that's what this says anyway. She turned to her religious writing in 1782. So this is 5 years before. So yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if it's a religious play. I don't have any idea. So it might be about grief because it says on the cover, in grief we know the worst of what we feel, but who can tell the end of what we fear? Huh. Well, that's interesting. It's actually something to contemplate, isn't that? Okay, and then after that, there's 2 more challenges that involve watching stuff. So number 6 is to watch a direct screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. And for that one, I am going to watch the Billie Piper version of Mansfield Park. So I have heard that there are no good versions of Mansfield Park. But I actually really like Billie Piper, and so I'm going to watch that, and I'm going to like it. No, I think I will watch it after I read the book, and then I can decide for myself if I feel like it's a good adaptation or not, but I think that's what I'll watch. At least that. Maybe I'll watch other stuff too, but I'm at least going to watch that. And then number 7 is to watch something with a connection to Jane Austen that is not a direct adaptation, so like a documentary or something like that. You know, like an indirect adaptation would be something like Clueless, right? Where like we get it that it's based on Emma, but it's not Emma, right? So for that, I'm going to watch a documentary if I can find it. Where did I put this? Here it is. There is a new documentary or a mini-series, sorry, came out last year called Jane Austen, Rise of a Genius. And I'm really hoping that I can find this somewhere. I have BritBox, so I'm hoping that it's on BritBox or something, but a mini-series about Jane Austen, I guess, and it just sounds really interesting. So that is my hope. Oh, and as I'm clicking on this, I see that there is a new Sense and Sensibility film coming up. Did you guys know about that? They need to put their hair up, ladies. Anyway, so those are my plans for Jane Austen July. I don't really have anything going on in July, hardly at all that I can think of. So hopefully I can add a little bit more to that, but those are my like definite want to do things. So here are the things that I am planning on reading that are not related to Jane Austen, that I am planning on reading in July. That over there. The first thing that I want to do is just a short little reading about Kate Greenaway. So Kate Greenaway is like one of my very, very favorite illustrators. And in a way, I guess she kind of does fit for Jane Austen July, because a lot of her illustrations are of children in 18th century outfits, or even some adults in 18th century outfits. These ones here are a little later into, you know, a little past Jane Austen's time, but especially like in a book of nursery rhymes that I have, like every picture is Regency era costume, or even Georgian, right? So she did illustrations from her current era and ones prior, but I have just always really adored her art style. I have this biography of her, which I've never read. It's pretty big, but it also has a whole lot of like illustrations and drawings and things in it. So I think I want to read this month. It's kind of Jane related in a way, and it definitely reminds me of England. When I was in England last summer, I got this book, Marigold Garden, and it's just a book of like little poems and nursery rhymes and things. So I want to read the biography of her. It's called The Life and Work of Kate Greenaway by M.H. Spielmann and G.S. Layard. This was published in 1905. This edition was published in 1986, but it was originally published in 1905, so that's cool. And then, of course, the book is an antique, so I'm going to go through those. And then everything else here is fairly modern, yes. So I'm going to start and just read the introduction and the first chapter of this book, About Time, by David Rooney. This is a history of civilization in 12 clocks. And I think that would be really interesting. I like books that I can read like over the course of a year. This one has an introduction and 12 chapters. So this can be read over the course of a year for sure. And then I got 2 books in the mail today that I just kind of threw on this pile at the last minute, that I do hope to read by the end of July, but there are still a few days left in June, so I might just read them before July. I've got Castle of the Winds, which is The Secret of Orndale, Book 3. I have been reading these on the recommendation of a couple of booktube friends. I'm not totally hooked yet. I read books 1 and 2. They weren't horrible, but I don't love them yet, but they have potential to be loved. So I'm going to read book 3 and see what I think. And then I got this, which is new to me, but I've seen these around. This is Mrs. Lorimer's Quiet Summer by Molly Clavering. And in the US, this was published as Mrs. Lorimer's Family. But this is published by Dean Street Press. And then they have this little division called Furrowed Middle Brow. And there are kind of reprints of books from maybe like the 30s through the 50s-ish. And so I just think they're adorable. I love the cover art and I love this whole feeling of it. I love that it's called Furrowed Middle Brow. I think that's so funny. And so I am looking forward to reading this. Apparently this author was friends with the author D.E. Stevenson, who they're also publishing some of her books as well. And I've never heard of Molly Clavering until I started looking into these books. So yeah, we'll see. There was a zillion of them to choose from. I just kind of clicked on whatever. So I hope I like it. And then I was sent this book by the author. This is, I think it's pronounced Ildenaryl by Taylor Paige. She is a Christian author and she contacted me and asked if I would, want to take a look at her book. So this is a fantasy story, Christian fantasy, and you guys know that I'm not a fantasy reader, but I will take a look at it. I don't know if I will read the whole thing this month, but I am definitely gonna take a look at it. And right off the bat, I'm loving this because she's got a pronunciation guide in the front. So all of these names that she has created, you can learn how to say them. She's also got a map, so that's always a good sign, right? And the print is large, which I'm looking forward to. I can actually read this late into the night, so you got a few good things going for you here already. But the cover art I thought was so pretty. She said her sister designed it. And she has a few other books I was noticing on Goodreads, so maybe go and look for Taylor Paige and maybe follow her on Goodreads and add some of her books to your list and check her out. And this is, I guess, her newest publication, so definitely gonna take a look at that. And then I have my other 2 books here that I've just been kind of going through slowly. This one I've been going through throughout the year. This Notes from Walnut Tree Farm by Roger Deakin. You've seen this 1,000 times, right? The story, just diaries from his country life. I've been reading that throughout the year. It's organized monthly. And then finally, my medieval studies that I've been doing, this one I'm on, is called Meetings with Remarkable Manuscripts. I have this and 4 other books in this medieval study thing that I'm doing this year. I have 4 others besides this to finish this year. Actually, no, I have 3 others. There's just another one sitting up there that I that I want to read. Okay, I got this and 3 others. One other is about the same size and the other 2 are smaller. So I'm on actually a really good track to finish my medieval studies by the end of the year. So I need to read a chapter of this and I'm trying to decide if I want to, I know I still got like half the year left, but if I want to continue with the medieval studies in 2027 or if I want to go on another track. I'm kind of considering studying 18th century female authors, and like 18th century in general, but kind of with a focus on female authors and like the actual authors, like their works, yes, but like their actual biography lives, right? Like Hannah More, like the life of Hannah More, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of considering that. I'm collecting books for it, whether or not I actually do it. Okay, so that is my plan. Let's see. Oh, I didn't talk about my reading challenges. So besides that medieval reading challenge, I'm also doing Anne's Read the Classics challenge coupled with my 50 by 50 challenge. And for that, the prompt is to read something with a blue cover, a classic with a blue cover. And my Mansfield Park has kind of like a sea blue, bluish green cover to it. So I'm going to count that. If you want an actual blue cover, you're going to have to accept 1999 being a classic, because this has a blue cover, but it also was published in 1999, and that's only 2 years after I graduated high school, so I'm not ready to claim that as a classic at this moment. So that's where I'm at for my July TBR. I think it's doable. What do you think? I do have quite a bit here, but I also have a lot of time in July as of now, and I'm going to be very selective with what I add to my calendar. Very, very selective. So that's my promise. You all heard me say it, so hopefully I'll actually stick to it. Hope you guys are doing well. Let me know what your plans are for July down in the comments. I'd love to hear about what you have planned to read. Are you planning on doing Jane Austen July? Let me know, and I hope you guys are all doing well, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.